What's going on? I saw something about Trump saying they're putting things in place so that the price of beef drops. What are you seeing? What's the big impacts here?
Yeah, I mean, nobody knows what that one means yet, what he said the other day about that. But, they're trying to, our cattle prices are really running right now. And this year they've run 34% higher or something on the year. So we've basically added a third of the value to an already elevated level to these cattle prices. But, that's on the futures market. When you start looking at the cash prices that we're getting, especially these forward sales for the fall, I mean, the prices have got kind of ridiculous in my opinion, but we'll celebrate them all the same.
Yeah.
So, I'm just encouraging people to take advantage of these high prices while they're here. The futures market's getting a little toppy, it looks like, but so far we're holding in there.
And so the futures market obviously will influence, but when you look at the prices here for the prairies in the fall of 2025, things are holding up relatively well, in the middle of September.
Yeah, I actually think it almost feels like a bit of a panic situation in the sense that the prices are so high for the fall right now. What the feedlots are buying these calves and yearlings for now for fall delivery, when I run the numbers, like there's just no way you can make those cattle pencil. And so maybe that's okay because the feedlots came off a pretty good turn this year, with the prices going up as fast as they did. The feedlots made a lot of money this year, but I think they're going to give a lot of it back on this next crop of calves and cattle because the prices are just ridiculous. And that when I do the projections, there's several $100 a head losses looking forward. So as producers, all you can do in this scenario is just keep selling into it. There's not really a good case for backgrounding or further feeding right now. And if you're producing calves or something, just keep taking advantage of these prices and keep selling into it. Same with the yearlings, your yearlings off grass and such. Just celebrate the high prices, take a breather. It's going to be hard to find something to buy next. So I think we need a market pullback to make that happen.
I want to talk about feed costs here. Last time you were on the show, we were talking about feed, barley, and being a little bit bearish feed grains. That's certainly the trend we're in right now in the glut of harvest year. Do you think that, the price of these cattle, everything's kind of crazy high right now. Do you think that folks are just, assuming or speculating that feed costs are going to get cheaper and that's why they're paying these big premiums for these calves?
Well, that's certainly part of it. I think the feedlots are more confident looking forward that, they do have cheap feed now coming. We got, enormous crops coming. And obviously the prices are quite a bit lower. So that when you run the cost of gains on feeding these cattle, it is down significantly. But that being said, I still think they're more panicking about the supply issue than the cheap feed side of things. Because even when I run today's feed grain prices, the depressed feed grain prices, when I run the break evens on feeding these cattle, it still doesn't pencil to me. So it says to me these feedlots are overpaying just to get the cattle, just to keep their lots full.
So Ryan, I was chatting with a farm yesterday, and one of their financial team members, on their one of the professionals they hire, just mentioned to them that they thought it would not be a great idea to background their cattle this year. What are they talking about? Am I saying that right? Like, are they referencing there?
Yeah, I think they're looking at the cost of these calves this fall. When you try and run the profitability of further feeding these cattle this fall, it doesn't look very good for the average producer. So I guess what they're recommending is taking these high dollars that are being offered right now, just selling the cattle and taking advantage of the high prices. If you try and further feed them, it's a pretty tough game right now. Of course, your feed is going to dictate that, though. If you have a bunch of feed on the farm and you can't get rid of it any other way, you're going to have to find a way to get rid of it somehow. But I'm pretty sure that's what they were referring to, is the feeding economics are very poor at these prices.
Okay. Obviously, the futures are tipping here a little bit. There's been some pretty wild swings here, even today. Pretty wild swings today. What sort of, if you're willing to share, like what's a strategy if maybe you're me, maybe you're me here, Ryan, with What the Futures, and let's pretend I've got a few head out in, in the back 40 here. What can I do as someone that's a little bit more junior in hedging cattle? Like, what strategy is can I look at to protect my margins here for this year?
Yeah, the first and foremost, the easiest strategy right now is to take advantage of the current existing cash markets. So whether that means selling today or selling for the fall, like with a forward sale, these prices that are being offered are so much higher than anything that the futures is offering. That's your best strategy. So forward sell, I would say, is your number one strategy right now. The other tools like livestock price insurance and put options are always a nice safe option because you kind of pay a premium and lock in a floor price. The challenge with those is that you're paying, 15 to 20 cents in premiums for those right now, which is a lot of money. Yes, this market can drop 50 cents. It might even drop $1. Who knows? But to pay 20 cents up front for that kind of insurance or a put option is quite expensive. And so generally if you're comfortable with trading futures, I've been just looking at, using a ruler on the charts, on your futures charts, and looking at the trend lines. Every time a trend line gets broke, sell the thing a little bit. And then once you sell it, make sure you got protective stops in case you're wrong, in case it goes up against you. But if you look at the futures charts, it's just been getting slowly steeper and steeper and steeper. And if you draw trend lines under every one of those, under that line where it gets steeper, every time it violates that trend line, if you sell a few futures, it's actually a pretty good way to play it. That's the way I played it in 2015, and I don't see why it wouldn't work in this go around as well. But you have to be kind of adept with futures. I would generally say, the forward sell is still your best tool.
All right, fair enough. Now there's bullish factors remain. Correct. Obviously, we don't know what Mr. Trump's working on to lower the price of beef, but there's still a lack of inventory, a lack of supply, right? Anything else stand out from a bullish side?
Yeah, the Mexican border's still closed, and that's definitely going to be hard on the feeder supply, especially in the South in the U.S. So that's been pushing the market. Trump's tariffs on Brazil has been a challenge because the U.S. imports a lot of beef from Brazil, lean beef, and those tariffs, people, consider it a restriction. I don't think they've actually sold a whole lot less beef into the U.S., but there is a tariff on it now, that the 40% additional tariff on it right now. So people are looking at that as being restrictive, and just the fact that there's been no sign of serious heifer retention. We're slowly starting to retain heifers and grow the cow herd, but it's been really slow. And so if we start holding back more and more heifers to grow the herd quicker, that could be a bullish thing as well. So definitely there's some bullish signals in there. I just think the futures market's already priced all that bullishness in. And, at some point it's going to correct here. I think we're seeing a little kind of nosebleed optimism now, and it's time for kind of the realistic price to be discovered here. What is a fair high price? That's what the market has to figure out now.
All right, Ryan. So we've talked strategy in this episode. We've talked about how you can take advantage of high prices right now. We've talked about some of the factors impacting these markets. I'm excited. You're going to come out to Moose Jaw for the Crop Marketing Made Cool conference, which is going to have a little layer of cattle in it now, cattle risk management in there. So I appreciate you bringing some diversity to the conference here. I'm putting you on the spot, but is there anything from a presentation standpoint, when you get in front of that crowd, is there any point that you're going to hammer home to them when it comes to risk management?
Well, yeah, we'll see what the market's like at that time of year. Maybe it might break by then. We're not sure, but it definitely, I would be encouraging people to take a hard look at risk management. Like, if you don't have a plan, in this kind of environment, it can kill you. It can be really devastating when you get as much volatility as we get at these high levels. So risk management is something I'm going to be pounding home for sure.
All right. Sounds good. Okay. Anything else that we didn't talk about today? Anything else that you have to bring to our attention, or did we get it all covered?
No, I think so. I'm just urging caution out there, and I'm actually encouraging people to start looking at taking on short positions on this market at some point. We don't know when it's going to top out. It may not have topped out yet. There's a lot of people saying that this bull market could run another year or two. Maybe they're right. I'm just looking at it. It's like these are pretty phenomenal levels. And there's an economist named Minsky that kind of had these principles for how to know when you're in a bubble. And one of it is the greater fool theory. When your investment has no chance of making money except for people paying higher prices later, then you're kind of getting into a greater fool theory, where the greater fool is the person that keeps buying your product at a higher price even though it doesn't make money. So we have to be careful that we're not getting into one of those scenarios, especially when you run the numbers on these cattle. But for now, we're going to celebrate high prices. Ranchers have never made these kind of dollars ever. And so hopefully it's enough to build the herd here.
Well, I think you might have given us a nice little clip there to clip as well for social media posts, Ryan. So appreciate that. Thanks for coming on the show here. Again, as always, my panic this morning, texting you, hey, these markets are moving. Can you jump on the show? So appreciate your time this week. How can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, well, you can look up my website, cowsandcontrol.com. And otherwise, you can email me or phone me or whatever, but cowsandcontrol.com's got my contact information on there, and you can see what my program's about. And then we have some other services as well that stem off of that.